Welcome back to the Beyond the Bestseller podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schuknecht, and today's guest is Joyce Kyles. And I'm super excited to have Joyce on. Joyce's book, she has a couple of books, but the book that we're going to talk about today is What Color is Your Elephant? Which I want to hear all about this. Joyce, welcome.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for having me. I'm looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it.
And we met, I wanted to give this backstory a little bit. So we actually met through the One Woman network or community. It's a community for women. I had gone to a online networking event, a Zoom community kind of group, and met you there. And I just wanted to mention that because you're the first person that I've had on from that group, although I'm sure there's
Oh, wow.
lots of women in that group who have books to share on my podcast as well. But yeah, so I am actually speaking at an event for One Woman coming up, and you have spoken at several of them or have and are going to. So yeah, so I wanted to mention that's how we got connected, and I'm so glad that we did. So tell me about What Color is Your Elephant? It made me think right away of What Color is Your Parachute? That's a book, right? I
Yeah.
saw the name and I was like, that's what it flagged for me. So tell me about What Color is Your Elephant and just what led you to write that book?
Okay. Wow. First of all, thank you again for having me. And I am honored then that I am the first one to meet with you and be interviewed by you from One Woman Experience that we shared online together. So there is power in virtual relationships. So let's see, what color is your elephant? Where did it come from? I think I was at a meeting at some point and someone was talking about the elephant in the room, and it was an experience that was going
Mm.
on that everyone saw and no one actually wanted to talk about. And so, yeah, that's a huge elephant in the room. And, but it was just people spoke on it and it was just dismissed and it was never really addressed. And I really sat with that. And because I do write and I speak and those types of things, and I'm always looking at what's currently being talked about, maybe pain points, things of that nature, and wanting to do something different. And so, what color is your elephant came to be as an idea and a concept to not just talk about the elephant in the room, because that's the elephant that most people think of. That's a typical saying that we hear all the time, elephant in the room. But I wanted to go a little deeper with that. I didn't want to just talk about the elephant in the room. I also wanted to talk about the elephant within, because in order for the elephant to get in the room, there has to be something that was going on internally that allowed the elephant to show up in the first place. So it's about the obvious that we see of other people, but it's also about doing some introspection in our internal elements and the things that we know about ourselves that we don't necessarily like to talk about or address either. And also with finding beauty in elephants too. Sometimes when we see elephants, physically we see them and we're looking at the long trunk and the gray skin and it's wrinkled and all the things. And it's not necessarily the most attractive for someone, but there's actually beauty in elephants. And so I wanted to just really do a deeper dive. There's pink elephants and white elephants. And so when I started really studying about elephants, I started learning about all of these great things about them and their beauty and their value, the way that they have a family dynamic and how they take care of themselves and their young. It was really interesting to me to do that. So it really came from a place of not wanting to just do a surface level or have a surface level conversation around the elephant that we see of others and pointing it out. But how do we address it? How do we address the person, the place, the thing, the whatever it may be? How do we address it in a way that is caring, concerning, in a way that is delicate if it needs to be, or stern and assertive if it needs to be, but how to do that without judgment, without bias. There's so many pieces and layers to the elephants. So there's been my personal experience as well as my professional experience. When I started working on this piece, it was about let me look at my personal lived experiences, let me look at my professional credentials, and then let me start talking with businesses, companies, individuals who may be experiencing these elephants that we don't want to talk about, but they've got to be talked about. They have to be addressed in order for us to be able to move forward. So
Yeah.
that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, so this is going to sound totally random.
Mhm.
I promise there's a reason for this. Do you have you ever read the book Leaving? I think it's Leaving Time by Jodi Picoult.
No, no, I haven't.
So this is on the beauty of elephants. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure that's the book. I'll after we're done recording, I will actually look it up and confirm for you, but I'm pretty sure that's the book.
Okay.
But it's about elephants. And as soon as you were talking about that, I was like, oh yeah, I've learned about elephants and the beauty of elephants
Yeah.
from that book. Anyway, check that out. But it was just a side note.
I will, yeah.
So man, I am so not an elephant in the room kind of person because I am so authentically me all the time
Mm,
that I have such a hard time. Like when there's that elephant in the room, it kills me because I'm like, why aren't we talking about this? Why can't we
yeah.
just be like open and honest and have a conversation and work through
Mm,
this? And I've
yes.
coming from a background in a corporate environment, which you probably don't know about me, but I was in a corporate environment and I learned like that was just not a good environment for me because
Mhm.
there's lots of elephants in the room in those types of environments. And I learned you're not supposed to say things like you probably should. You should probably hire Joyce and learn how to say things.
That's right.
But yeah, I just like as all of the things that you were saying, I was like, I just remember sitting through so many meetings where I would be so frustrated. We would have these leadership team meetings for days at a time, and the whole time I'm like, why aren't we talking about this thing that we all are aware of? We can have side conversations, but we won't talk about it in a group, and I don't get it. So, yes, I totally understand that. So, when you talk with people about the elephant in the room or the
Sure.
kind of unveiling some of that or unwrapping it, how do you help how do you help those people who I guess in my experience it seemed like there was people who just would not acknowledge it for anything, like
Mhm. Yeah.
it was not allowed to be spoken. So how
Right.
do you get people past that and to start having open honest conversations?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think I'll say it this way. Those that I have worked with, whether it be nonprofits or corporations, educational spaces, individuals, it's been small groups, it's been some larger groups, some larger businesses. I think that getting the conversation started is helpful because by the time someone has reached out to me, that means that there's at least one person who knows and recognizes, just as you shared, that there's a problem here and someone needs to address it. Why is this not being addressed? So by the time it gets to me, there's at least one person who is open to the idea of saying, you know what, someone has to get this conversation going. And I don't know what to say or how to say. And there's been some cases where I know what to say, but it would come better if it's said from someone other than me. Because maybe if they hear it from someone other than me, then they'll believe that there's a problem here that needs to be addressed. And we have to have those courageous conversations around that and be willing to have an open mind about it, not be resistant, not be judgmental, be honest about our biases, because that's a huge one is that people don't want to acknowledge that they are not, that they are biased. They have bias. We all do.
Right.
We all do. And that is one of the first things that I talk about is people coming to terms with realizing that we all have bias. That doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It means that you have certain preferences, and that could be based on a myriad of things. And so we talk about that and talk through that. And what usually happens is that as those conversations start, people start realizing that they have more in common than they originally thought, and that we're not as different from one another as we originally thought, and that someone else has been thinking the same thing that I've been thinking, but they just didn't know how to say it. And some people recognize that, yeah, my tone may not be quite what it needs to be in this space to talk about what needs to be talked about. So we need someone to come in and talk us through that and help us through that. And so the book was developed for that very reason, to get the conversation started. And that's why the book cover has these different colored elephants on it, and some of the activities that we do are specific to those elephants. And I really work to make sure that people are comfortable with knowing that there may be some uncomfortable conversation that comes from this, but it's necessary for growth. If you are really sincere about wanting to see change, either from within or around in your environment, that it has to start with conversation that is open and honest and truthful. And if you find that you're a person who is not open to that, then let's explore that and figure out why is that. And usually, most of the time, by the time we're done, there's laughter, there's conversation, there are people who are actually
Yeah.
talking to other people that,
Yeah.
"Oh, I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that upset you. I didn't realize that this is the background that you came from. I didn't know that this was your cultural experience. I didn't know that you had experienced this particular trauma. I didn't know that you were afraid. I didn't know that my energy made you feel that I couldn't." So there's a lot that comes from it. And I think, like I said, for me, what it has been consistently is having that person come and say, yes, I recognize there's a conversation that needs to be had. So if you, as long as you've got one person that has the mindset of, I see the need for change, then the change may be immediate, it may come over time, but it is possible. And it
Mhm.
happens. I've seen it happen in real time.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you do any kind of, I don't know what they're like, assessment or not personality test, but in the
Oh,
workplace
sure.
I've done like Colby and DISC assessment, and I guess Working Genius is a different nature, but that kind of thing where you get to the core of, because I think that was really doing that was really helpful to me, where I could understand like the different personality types and what's going
Right.
on. And now I'm a big disc fan. So like any conversation I'm having with people, I'm like, oh, she's totally that. Like I had not to put them in a box, but it helps me sometimes when somebody's
Yeah, absolutely.
more abrasive or more direct. You're like,
Sure.
okay, that's a D personality. But then when you start realizing that it's not about them, sometimes it's just the way it comes out of somebody's mouth, but they're not
Right.
intending to be abrasive or tending to be whatever. There's those things
Right.
that the more you understand about people, the better you can work with them and understand how to communicate better with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is definitely about communication and being willing to have those conversations. And yes, I definitely agree with it. Having assessments, I give them, I have taken them. So yes, all of those that you mentioned with DISC and Strength Finders and
Yeah,
just
strength
all the
finders.
things. Yeah, there's some that I do that are just strictly about personality and things that we value most. Just what are our core values? What is that for us? Because that plays a role too in how we believe, what we think, what we feel. When you couple that with some of the other strength finders, it comes together and it's okay, this makes sense for this person's D personality or this person's S personality, because I love DISC as well. So yeah, I think all of those are great. So I have some that I have done, like we just talked about, and then there are a couple that I have actually created that go along with what color is your elephant, to really address our core values and our strengths and our beliefs, and pulling all those things together to come up with, okay, this is why I feel this way, or this is where this came from, or this is potentially where this elephant came from. So I think if we
Yeah.
spend more time doing the introspection and we do that inner work, then we can show up in our places of responsibility in a much healthier way. And that's
Yeah.
definitely the goal.
Yeah, yeah. What you mentioned that you do assessments in your work. Which one? And you talked about DISC, but are there others that are your go-to assessments that you do with people?
This is definitely probably the biggest go-to, but I do like the strength finders as well. And then, like I said, I do have a couple that I have created myself just based on the years of working with other people and finding out from them what has worked, what didn't work, what questions they wished had been asked in their workplaces and spaces. So I've created that based on conversations that I've had with past clients and
Yeah.
people that I've worked with so that I can develop something that is tangible and in real time that others may be asking. Some of the others that have been created, they're pretty standard, they're thorough, they're very thorough, but I do like to actually incorporate some of the newer things that I'm learning from other people. And then there's a one that I do for personal values. And it's kind of like the disc and the strength finders, but it is very specific to who we are, how we think, what we believe, why we believe, those types of things. And I compile all of that. And then I'm able to give someone a tangible assessment of, based on what you shared with me, this is what came of that. And I always ask with every assessment, please be honest.
Right.
Because if you're looking to genuinely get answers that you need for yourself or your business or whatever place, that this is necessary for at home, whatever you're doing it for, if you're not honest, then the answers are going to be skewed. And then you're wondering, nothing's changing. And why is someone saying this? But you weren't honest with your answers. So it makes it difficult to get to the root causes of why things look and feel the way that they do. So I always just encourage people, take the assessments when people are giving them to you, but be honest with them because there's nothing for me as the person administering it or doing the retreat or the workshop or the coaching series or whatever it is that I'm being asked to do. There's nothing in it for me if you aren't honest about you, because
Right.
I can only give you based on what you give me. So
Right.
I'm only able to help based on what you share.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to ask you a selfish question. You mentioned retreats. So I'm asking this because I just recently went to a women's retreat and I'm also planning a women's writing retreat for January next
Oh,
year.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you said that, I was like, ooh, so how do you, would a writing retreat probably wouldn't be the right fit for that, but what do you do at the retreats for people? Like you come in and do kind of like a workshop with the group?
Yes, yes. And so let me backtrack that there just to say that no, actually, any space, what
Okay.
color my outfit actually does, it's writing because that's where this was birthed from, is me as a writer. I've been writing since the third grade. So it's for me, it's just inherently in me to I need to get this out. I need to write and put it together. So what colors your elephant is about mindset. And it's about communication. It's about mindset. It's about making the decisions to look inward and okay, if you wanted, for instance, there's someone who wants to be a writer and I've just never done. I've talked to someone, oh my goodness, yesterday as a matter of fact, and she's had this book pent in her for years and she's just, but I just haven't done it. I just haven't done it and I don't know why. And I just, let's talk about that. And to me that's an elephant.
Mhm.
That's an inner elephant, that there's something that you know that you can do. It's something that you want to do, and it's something that you desire to do. And everyone else around you sees that you can do this. Everyone sees it but you. So why is that? What are you afraid of with that?
Yeah.
And is it just a matter of being connected to people like you who may be having a writer's retreat and they just need to know that they can attend and that they're going to be in a safe space with other people who are writers so
Yeah.
that we can remove that elephant and you get on about the business of writing the book. So in the retreats, it depends on the audience because the beautiful thing, we talk about the beauty of elephants. So the beautiful thing about what color is your elephant is that there's an elephant for every situation. There's a situation for everything. Like there are people who have gone through some sort of trauma. Maybe it's domestic violence, and there's a purple elephant. Everybody knows about that, but nobody's talking about it. And then there's financial abuse that's associated with domestic violence that people don't talk about. Approximately 99% of people who have gone through domestic abuse have gone through financial abuse. When we think of money, we think green. We also think, so there's a green elephant, but the green elephant is also around mental health. These are some of the things that I use when I'm speaking. So if it happens to be something like mental health, May is recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month. So
Mhm.
if we're talking about bringing awareness, I may pull out the green elephant and talk about mental health, money mindset, because money is green. We may talk about economic abuse. We may talk about anything that's related to green elephant gardening and trees and the beauty of things. So
Yeah.
every elephant has a purpose. Every elephant is not bad. And that's what I was saying at the beginning is that all of us come with biases and traumas, issues of some kind in some space at some place in time in our lives. It's how we address them. How do we communicate them? How do we work with people within our responsibilities to bring out the best in them? How do we bring out the best in ourselves? So every elephant has its purpose, its mission. It's to pull out the beauty in whatever your elephant may be and embracing it for who and what you are. There's even a multicolored elephant that I have as well, where it's a blend of all of the elephants, because in truth, there's a little bit of all of them inside of it. We are the sum total of all of our experiences, is what I like to say.
Yeah.
Some have been absolutely fantabulous, because that's my word, fantabulous. And then some
Love
of
it.
them have been a little more challenging, but they make up us. They make us up as individuals. So we all have a different origin story. And that plays a role in our inner elephants and how those inner elephants become outer elephants in our places of responsibility. So I'm hoping that people will take their experiences after working with me or hearing a presentation or coaching or whatever it is that they've pulled me in to do, that they use the book, because it is a book, it's actual workbook. If you use it and you listen and you write and you reflect and you do the exercises, I truly believe, and I know this from testimonies that I have received as well, so I do have proof that it works. It works when we are honest with ourselves. And that's the key. It's about being honest. It's about having the right
Yeah.
mindset. And that's what I bring to the retreats when people have asked me about coming in to do them. We talk very candidly, but you have to be open and ready for that conversation. Sometimes it has the potential to be uncomfortable. Not always,
Yeah.
but it definitely does.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, and that's okay. And you can be uncomfortable for a little bit, but a lot comes out of that. So it's a good thing.
Yes.
I had to jot down a couple notes while you were talking so I wouldn't forget. I earlier you mentioned we talked about disc, and so I had to tell you, I don't know if you've read the book Surrounded by Idiots. Horrible title because it's
It's
terrible, but it's about the disc and it's a different, I mean it's about disc, it doesn't take a different approach to it, but it's like it's
right.
colors instead of the
Right.
letters. Anyways, you would, if you like disc, you would enjoy that book as well if you.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great book. It's a great book.
Okay, so you have read it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that book.
But like
Every
you
time I
said,
say it
the
though, I'm
title
like,
is like, oh my gosh, really? Is that what we're
yeah.
calling this? But okay, yeah.
I know he has another book, Surrounded by Narcissists, and
Oh, I haven't read that one.
I
Okay,
think it's the same author, I assume, but I have not read that one. But yeah, it sounds terrible. The
okay.
other one I wanted to mention is, or the other thing I wanted to mention is, you talked about financial abuse, and I just want to take a
Mhm.
second to mention I have an earlier podcast episode, like one of my, I don't know what episode number it is earlier on, and I
Mhm.
can link to it in the show notes. But I had Amanda Cassar come on, and she talks a lot about financial abuse in relationships. I want to take a moment to just
Okay.
mention that for anyone who's listening, who, if that episode would be a good resource for you to go and look for that one and listen to it because it was really eye-opening.
Wow. Okay.
So, Joyce, I will link to your book in the show notes. Anything else
Okay.
that you want to share, ways that people can connect with you, find out more about what you're doing online?
Sure. So my website is joycekyles.com. So you can find all things me there in terms of how to connect with me. My primary way of connecting in terms of social media has been LinkedIn. That's where I live mostly. but I do have more of the like the TikToks and Instagrams and all that. So I'm learning to do that a little bit more, but certainly LinkedIn, if you connect with me there, I'm there. Of course, email. I'm on YouTube as well, so I'm really growing that channel in space. But those are the main ways to get in touch with me. I think as far as any takeaways, I think the biggest takeaway that I would have is just to find the beauty in the elephant in you, because we all have them. We all have elephants that we need to address, maybe haven't out of fear, out of shame, out of embarrassment, out of uncertainty, the unknowns, all the things. But there's such beauty to be had when we learn who we are and why we are the way that we are, so that we are not the topic of conversation at our places of responsibility. No one wants to be the one that's being talked about at the water cooler. And you and I were talking about the importance of speaking up and being that person that's like, why is no one talking about this? And it's usually fear. There's fear,
Mm.
and we have to talk about that's certainly a conversation for another time. But why there's this fear around not having these conversations that need to be had. And so that's what I do with What Color is Your Elephant? And I do it in a way that is fun and engaging, and it exposes and it peels back those layers, but I think that it does it in a way that people walk away feeling lighter. They walk away feeling happier, healthier. There's a transformation that takes place that says, you know what, I don't know why I was feeling this way, but now I do. And I can
Mm.
take this and go with it. And the way that the book itself is set up is you can work it in quarters. So that's the last thing that I will say as I wrap up my spiel, is
Yeah.
that it's important that we give ourselves grace. And that is what Color is Your Elephant gives you the opportunity to do, is to do some introspection, but at the same time, give yourself some grace to know that you didn't get this way or started feeling this way or wasn't doing a particular thing. It didn't just happen overnight. It's an over time process. So give yourself some grace and be able to extend grace as well.
Yeah.
And I think if you extend it as well as give it, there's a transformative experience on the other side that is as beautiful as the elephant that you are.
Love it. Thank you, Joyce. I know that your book is something that I will love because like I said, I love DISC. I love self-assessments and learning more about yourself and how to communicate with others, work better with others, all of that. It seems like exactly the kind of book I would love. So
Oh,
I will
very
definitely
good.
be
Thank
reading
you.
it. Yeah, and thank you for coming on. Good luck in
Oh,
your speaking journey. I
thank
know that
you.
you're doing speaking and love that for you. So good luck in that.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it every bit as much as I knew I would. Thank you.
Looking for a community of women writers to support and inspire you on your journey? Join the Author Power Circle. Connect weekly with fellow authors, stay accountable, and move your book forward in an encouraging community. Learn more at kellyshuckneck.com.